NBA champ Steven Jackson is with us. Always a good time.
I think it's fair to say, not to speak for Chris, because that can be a dangerous thing to do, but I'm going to speak for you right now. On behalf of all three of us, even though this is only your third day ever with us, you're already one of our favorite guests we've ever had. Thank you,
man. Give him that on the way out the door. We ain't even done nothing today, man. No, let's give you something on the way out the door. Do some work
I appreciate it, though.
Do some work first.
I'm ready.
Good point. Good point, CC. My bad.
All right,
He might sit down on the curb on it.
Waiting on the ride.
3 flat tires. Okay. Steven, let's talk some Russell Westbrook here. Last night, 32 points, 12 rebounds, 12 assists, and a win over the Hawks. It was the 100th triple-double of his career. He joins Oscar Robinson, Magic Johnson, and Jay Kidd as the only members of the 100 triple-double club. But, Steven, based on the way he plays, what you've seen from what he's done with this team compared to last year, with the new additions on this team, and yet where they are, would you want to play with Russell Westbrook?
I'm one of those guys, go hard or go home. I'm one of those guys that broken toe, anything that I've dealt with, I played. And I played hard, gave everything I have. You would never hear me say anything bad about Russell Westbrook because he shows every night how much he loves the game. I would love to play with a guy like Russ. Anytime you got a guy that stuffs the stat sheet, that does everything for your team, how can you go against it? You can't blame him. I think you need to blame those other guys on their team. They need to pick their energy level up. They need to play with more passion and show that they care about the game like Russ doing. Their team might be better, but when you have a guy like Russ, you got to hold on to him because that passion you can't teach.
See, what you touched on, that is the best explanation as to why I love Russ. I'm an analytics guy, I'm a numbers guy, and the analytics don't love Russell Westbrook.
At all.
The analytics talk about his inefficiency as a shooter. He is approaching Charles Barkley levels of volume three-point shooting without success at it. The analytics say a lot of those rebounds that got him the triple-double were hollow rebounds, off missed free throws. And I understand those numbers, and I appreciate those numbers. But the reason I love Russ is what you touched on. I said this last year, I'll say it again. If you have a kid that plays sports, you know who of all athletes across all sports you should point to and say, that's how you should play, that's how much you should care, that's how hard you should go every single night. Russell Westbrook. Last year, when the biggest problem with the NBA last season was the resting. Was all of a sudden LeBron's not playing on a nationally televised game. The Warriors and Spurs are resting all their star players on a big Sunday or Saturday night ABC game. Guess who was not resting for a possession?
Russell.
That guy. And what you're saying is, for the right type of teammates, it's inspirational. For the right type of teammates, it should make them go even harder. It's one of the reasons I love him. I understand his limitations as a player, but watching him as a fan, it's exhilarating to me.
When I look at the question, I have to ask myself, as a player that played with a bunch of different players, well, what kind of player wouldn't I like to play with? Well, one who's not consistent, one who's lazy, one who doesn't care about the game, and one who's not a self-starter. Like, I don't like to play with guys got to be motivated by the coach.
Right.
I want a guy that shows up to work regardless of how your body's feeling. Like, you can predict the type of energy that's going to come out of him. Because the reason I like that is because, man, you don't always have your A game. You don't always have the energy that you need to be able to do this type of job. So to have someone like that, so there can be for me, it would be a push-pull effect. Because I would be able to push him on almost every day. In those days I couldn't push him, he would be pushing me. So I would try to figure out how I would be able to surround my game around his game. I realize also the story of Russell Westbrook. This is not one of the guys that, okay, this guy was a 5-star talent in high school. Man, UCLA did not want him. But most of the college coaches did not want him. He made himself into the basketball player. Now, he hit a growth spurt. But his overall tenacity to be in the gym, to work on his game. See, I don't think people know who Russ really is and what he came from to get to where he is. They just think, oh, KD, he's talented. Oh, Steph. Steph developed his game, too. Russell developed his game as much as any player in the NBA. So that much I do love, and that I can embrace and play with.
So why isn't this team considerably better than they were last year with the additions they made? And I know you said the other guys need to pick up the energy, but does Russ not need to adjust his game at all, in your opinion? Is there something to maybe figuring out a way, when your numbers are basically the same, getting the other guys into it? Because if it's not working the way you're doing it, maybe as the team leader you adjust the way you're doing it?
Well, it's it's hard to point the finger at Russ, you know, when he's doing everything, and you're paying guys like Roberson $80 million, and he's getting hacker-shacked.
Right.
Whenever you ever been in a situation where you have a small forward getting hacker-shacked that can't make a free throws. So you putting Russ in a tough position. Losing KD is a tough position. You know, you're trying to add guys to replace KD. That's kind of impossible. I think Paul George, this is his first year. I think he needs a little bit more time there. He's a great player, but you can't put it on Russ, like I said, when you giving $80 million to a guy that's a small forward that can't make free throws.
Here's the thing, though, because I know you like Paul George's game because we never talked about Paul George, but he plays both ends. He plays both ends at a very high level. I know that's your style of ball. I know you like his game. Steven Adams, in a league that didn't have a lot of really good centers.
My favorite player.
Well, I didn't know that, but Steven Adams really. So why aren't they better? Because it's not just because they gave Roberson that money. Because I know he can't hit free throws, but he was maybe going to be Defensive Player of the Year before he got hurt. Like, he does add some value. Why, in your eyes, why aren't they better? And does it say anything to you that Victor Oladipo looked like one thing in Oklahoma City and has looked like something totally different in Indiana?
Well, I think his light in OKC was green. His light in Indiana is lime green.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. He can shoot way more. His game is free flowing.
He's got the ball more.
It's a different feeling. It's a different feeling. They're not winning because it's kind of like the Jordan thing or kind of like the Shaq thing. When you trade a guy like KD or when you lose a guy like KD, it's going to take a while to get back. We're talking about KD now, arguably the best player in the league. So when you lose a guy like that, it's kind of hard. But I think for the most part, to applaud Russ, he's been doing a great job. He's been just sticking to his guns and being a professional and going out there and play basketball regardless who they bring. Now, he has some help now. I still think if they can get into the playoffs, they can do some damage.
At this point in his career, though, for me, I'm about trying to improve my game. I would look at the worst parts of my game, and that would be his three-point shooting. I love the energy and everything, but at some point, you have to look at the numbers and wonder, I need to work more at the weakest part of my game. And so that part right there, I believe that Russ can improve on. At this stage of his career, he should be a better three-point shooter or take less three-point shots. Now, that's an adjustment that Russ needs to continue. If you look at the greatest players, they're still adjusting. Steph is adjusting. KD, we saw him adjusting. LeBron, year 15, he's adjusting. Russ is not adjusting. So that's the thing that you can hold against him. The players who come there with him, they have to adjust to Russ's play. And I just believe as a superstar, he should have more flexibility and be able to do more different things and be able to shoot the ball better.
All right, Steven, stick around. We're going to see you a little bit later in the show. Coming up, Eric Mangini joins us to talk about whether Kirk Cousins made the right call signing in Minnesota next. First things first.
Coach Mangini
Get all
with a
up in here,
walk-off.
Coach. Get in here, Coach.